Hello, you absolute legends. What makes a game great to speedrun? To explore this question, I'm going to examine what I believe to be the greatest speedrunning game of all time, Super Mario 64. We all know the game is a classic, one of the most revolutionary and beloved games ever made. It's also the most popular speedrunning game of all time. It is partly responsible for the massive rise in popularity of speedrunning on streaming services such as Twitch. In the early days of Twitch, thousands upon thousands of people would flock to watch the best Super Mario 64 players show their skill. Its speedruns attract millions of views on YouTube, and it has by far the most amount of submitted runs on speedrun.com. But what is it about this game in particular that makes it so attractive to speedrunners? In my opinion, it comes down to a perfect balance between simplicity and complexity. The simplicity is in the design of the environments. 3D platforming was in its infancy, and the technical limitations of the Nintendo 64 ensured that the level designs were minimalistic. The boundaries of walls and objects are flat and easily distinguishable. Open space is plentiful, and worlds are basic and uncluttered, allowing casual viewers to easily keep track of what is happening on screen. The simplicity is in the story and the ultimate goal of the game. Collect stars and defeat the final boss. Each star representing a miniature saga of struggle and triumph. Each star giving confirmation the runner is one step closer to victory. The complexity is in the movement. Getting optimally from point A to point B is not as simple as holding a direction on the control stick, but rather a string of frame-perfect inputs varying from star to star. The complexity is in the near limitless possible strategies, each getting progressively harder until the only ceiling is human fallibility. The speed of every single stage is capped by the skill of the player and not by the mechanics of the game. Super Mario 64 was released at a time that had every ingredient for a perfect speed game. Many games that were released in later years have been bogged down with environments that are too noisy, making it difficult for casual viewers to appreciate what is happening on screen. It is not a coincidence that 3 of the most popular speedrunning games of all time were released on the Nintendo 64. Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and GoldenEye all share similarities in their simple world designs. Despite having more complex level designs, the newer Mario games still enjoy a lot of activity among speedrunners. I attribute some of this to the foundation that Super Mario 64 built. But I also think that keeping the minimalistic story and basic formula of collecting stars to advance through the game definitely plays a large role in their success. Of games that have been released relatively recently, it tends to be the simpler, two-dimensional games that gain traction in both viewership and popularity with speedrunners. These games are both easy to play and easy to watch, though they still must offer a rich depth of strategic possibilities to retain interest. I don't think the fascination of speedrunners to play simple two-dimensional games such as the Super Mario series can be pinned on nostalgia alone, as a lot of runners these days weren't even born when the games were released. I really think the simplicity of the games fosters a better environment for both runners and spectators alike. Game sales numbers also don't accurately predict the popularity of games within the speedrunning community. Compared to its counterpart, the PlayStation, the Nintendo 64 sold relatively poorly. But still, it dwarfs the PlayStation in the number of active speedrunners the console sustains. Super Mario 64 does not even crack the top 50 best-selling games of all time. And yet it reigns supreme above all others as the most popular speedrunning game ever. Two questions need to be answered if we are to determine if a game will be popular in speedrunning. Is it simple enough to easily understand? And is it complex enough to offer nourishing depth to speedrunners looking to devote their time pushing the game to its limits? Super Mario 64 answers yes to these questions, and in my opinion, is the quintessential game to speedrun. It doesn't mean that every speedrunner on the planet will drop what they are playing and move over to Super Mario 64. But you'll be hard-pressed to find a speedrunner that hasn't dabbled at the game, or at the very least, hasn't enjoyed watching the top players show their skill live on Twitch. Super Mario 64 has created some of the most memorable moments in the history of speedrunning, and I'm sure as the years go by, it will continue to create many more. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.